Hey, it's grade, Mr. Herzberg here. Today is April 27th, 2020, and it's a Monday, which means we're going to be doing 10 pages of Fahrenheit 451 Part 3. We're going to go over our homework from Friday, and we're going to go over this week's standard in today's journal. Let's get started. This week's standard is Reading Informational Text 8.4, which is determining the meaning of words and phrases as they're used in a text. That includes figurative languages like similes and metaphors, connotative, the way a word makes you feel, technical meanings, and how these word choices impact the text. Okay? So let's put that into some everyday meaning. What does that mean? It just means how it affects the tone. How it affects, is it serious? Is it joking? If there's a lot of technical words, it might seem like a textbook. If there's less similes and metaphors, it might make you laugh. But let's take a look at this week's. For example, what does that word mean? In your journal today, you're going to number your Google Doc 1 to 12. And in each of these, you're going to get an underlined word, and it's your job to pick which word means the closest thing. So let's go to the first one. Mary's mother felt that Mary's outfit was too ostentatious. So before I end, the first thing you're probably going to do is Google, define, search ostentatious, or ask Siri to define it for you. Before you do that, try and use the context clues. If you can't, and your two choices are revealing or flashy, which could be either one. Try and use your context clues, but if you can't, you can look it up, okay? And go from there. And then, again, try and go through each of these and figure it out with, I'm not going to give you the answer, but try and figure it out using context clues or previous knowledge, okay? And remember, bigger words can change the impact. Her mom might use a big word because she's an adult, she's mad. It all depends. So let's get started then on that. Let me know if you have any questions. The Google Meet, and y'all's Google Meet is from 2 to 2:30. Let's go over the Fahrenheit questions, part 3, first 10 pages. What does Beatty's speech about Clarice reveal about him? Why does he speak about her so passionately? So in part 3, we kind of start things off. Beatty immediately starts talking about Clarice McClellan and how he knew Montag and her were talking. He's been watching Montag this whole time. And it tells us that he was suspicious about the whole time about the way his relationship with her and the way she was acting and the way Montag was drawn to her. And he knows that she was going around getting people to question. That's why. The next question says, what action has Mildred taken, and what does this show about her values? What do you think she means when she says everything is gone now? So a couple of things. She left the house, and she leaves Montag and runs away, leaves. She basically ratted Montag out. Her and her friends told the firemen that Montag was had books. He was keeping illegal things in the house. So they ratted out Montag. It shows that she actually has no feelings for him at all. She doesn't care. And the reason she says that everything is gone because she has nothing left, and neither does he. Everything's gone. The TVs, everything that meant anything to her is gone. Why do you think everyone in the world of Fahrenheit thinks that, as Beatty puts it, nothing will ever happen to me? There's no consequences, no responsibilities. Is this similar to our society in 2020? So, two-part question. First part is technology is so advanced that they don't have to do any thinking. Little work is done for them. Everything is laid out in front of them, whether it be in the TV room or there be drugs to help them sleep, to dull their sort of emotions. Everything is thoughtless. You know, you feel bad about something, you start feeling depressed, you pop a pill. You start feeling like the world's too much, you watch TV to drown out your reality. And is society like that today? Yeah, I think we do a little bit of that with our phones, with the internet and social media. We tend to dive ourselves into alternate realities because our own reality might not be that pleasant. Next up, what attitude or aspect of human nature is the fire symbolic of? And I asked you to think about Beatty's philosophy of burning a problem rather than facing it. So, fire represents chaos, destruction, and cleanliness. Beatty sees fire as like cleaning a really dirty house. And Beatty's philosophy of burning a problem instead of facing it is kind of like this whole society's theme. When something's too busy or too complicated to deal with, just get rid of it. Pop a pill, watch some TV, or burn it. It's all destruction. It's all chaos. Okay, number 5. Why does Montag burn his entire house and everything in it? Beatty tells him to, hands him the flamethrower, but I think Montag was doing it because it's like it was a cleanse. He was cleansing one part of his life. He was tired of that life anyways. He knew Mildred didn't love him. The house represented nothing of happiness to him, so it's more of a cleanse. Why do you think Beatty let the first alarm ride? In other words, why did he not immediately go to the house when he started getting things heard about Montag? I think he wanted to see if he could change Montag. I think he was trying really hard to change and make him a little more like himself. Next up, what is the earthquake that came? And it's a metaphorical earthquake. It was the destruction of Montag's house and the destruction of his old life. Number 8 asks, why is Beatty's eye wide when Montag toggles the safety switch on the flamethrower? And why do you think Montag does what he does? Is it a simple act of revenge? So Beatty is just pounding Montag in the face. Montag burns his house down, and Beatty comes up to him in the driveway and just starts pounding him with his fists, saying, how dare you? You could have been better than this. You gave in. So under all these barrage of fists, Montag's still got the flamethrower in his hand. He flips the safety switch. In other words, he's getting initiated to turn it on. And Montag has every intention of killing Captain Beatty and lighting him up. And I don't think Beatty thought Montag was capable of that. I think that's why his eyes lit up, that he thought he had Montag figured out. What does Bradbury's description of Montag's knee as being hit by a car really mean? This is another example of his idiosyncratic style of description. So it's metaphorical. Kind of the car hitting him in the knees is like the reality hitting him. And the old life passing him and the new one sort of revealing itself. Number 10, what do you think Montag is expressing regret about when he calls himself an awful fool and an idiot? Maybe his interest in books, his mind's willingness to listen to other people so easily, whether it be Clarice or these authors. I think he's mad at himself for being him, essentially. And last question, how does Montag know Beatty wanted to die? Why do you think he wanted to die? Think about your question. I think he kept on, he knew Montag was going to snap and he kept pushing him. I think part of him thought Montag might not do it, but I think the other half of him thought maybe this guy has got it in him. And if someone's taking me out, it's going to be this guy. He's either going to change or he's going to kill me. And I think he wanted to die because I think even Beatty was starting to snap. I think Beatty, as a character, was starting to change. I think he'd been reading books himself for many years, and I think he was even having a difficult time convincing himself that what he was doing was right, and that meeting Montag kind of maybe pushed him over the edge and made him come to grips with that. All right, so that's that. Let's read today. We're going from 111 to 121. I'll read a little bit of it with you, and then I'm going to let you read the rest. The emptiness made an even emptier whistle and a senseless scream. Montag tried to think about the vacuum which the nothingness had performed, but he could not. He held his breath so the vacuum could not get into his lungs. He cut off the emptiness, drew back, and gave the entire room a gift of one huge yellow burning flame. When you're quite finished, said Beatty behind him, you're under arrest. The house fell in coals. It bled itself, rising and waving slowly. It was 3:30 in the morning. The crowd drew back in the house. The great tents of the circus had slumped in the charcoal and rubble. Montag stood with the flamethrower in his limp hands. The great islands of perspiration were drenching in his armpits, his face, and was smeared with soot. The other firemen waited behind him, and in the darkness their faces illuminated faintly by the smoldering foundation. Montag started to speak twice and then finally managed to put his words together. Was it my wife that turned the alarm? Beatty nodded. Yeah, but her friends turned an alarm earlier that I let ride. On the way, one way or another, you'd have got it. It was pretty silly quoting poetry around freely and easily like that. It was the act of a silly damn snob. Give a man a few lines of poetry and he thinks he's the lord of creation. You think you can walk on water with your books? Well, the world can get by just fine without them. Look where they got you, Montag, and slime up to your lips. If I stir the slime with my little finger, you'll drown. Montag couldn't move. A great earthquake had come with fire and leveled the house, and Mildred was under there somewhere of his entire life, and under all that he couldn't move. The earthquake was still shaking and falling inside of him, and he stood there, his knees half bent under the great load of tiredness and bewilderment and outrage, letting Beatty hit him without raising a hand. Montag, you idiot, you damn fool, why did you do it? Montag didn't hear. He was far away, running his mind. He was gone, leaving this dead soot-covered body to sway in front of a raving fool. Montag, get out of there, said Faber in his ear. Montag listened. Beatty struck him blow by blow on his head that sent him reeling back. The green bullet in which Faber's voice whispered fell. Beatty snatched it. He held it out of his ear. Montag heard the distant voice. Montag, you are right. Beatty switched the green bullet off with a thrust in his pocket. Well, it's more than you than I thought. I saw you tilt your head listening. First I thought you had a seashell, but when you turned clever later, I wondered, we'll trace this and we'll drop you in on your friend. No, said Montag. He twitched the safety catch of the flamethrower. Beatty glanced instantly at Montag's fingers and his eyes widened. Montag saw the surprise in himself and glanced to his eyes to see the new thing he had done. Thinking back to later, he could never decide the hands or Beatty's reaction to the hands gave him the final push towards murder. The last rolling thunder of avalanche stoned about down his ears, not touching him. Beatty grinned, his most charming grin. Well, that's one way to get an audience. Hold a gun to a man and force him to listen to your speech. Well, speak away, Montag. What'll it be this time? Why don't you belch out some Shakespeare, you fumbling idiot? There's no terror. Cassius in your threats, for I am armed so strong in honesty that they pass by as an idle wind, which I respect not. How's that? Go ahead now, Montag. You second-hand literature. Pull the trigger. He took one step towards Montag. Montag only said, we never burned right. Hand it over, guy, said Beatty with a fixed smile. And then the blaze jumped, no longer human or known, all writhing flame along his Montag as countless pulse of fire liquid all over Beatty. There was a hiss of the great mouthful of spittle banging a red-hot stove, poured over a monstrous snail that caused a terrible liquefaction and boiled over a yellow foam. He shut his eyes and shouted, and fought to get his hands and his ears to clamp and cut away the sound. Beatty flopped over, and at last twisted himself like a charred wax doll, and laid silent. He was dead. The other two firemen didn't move. Montag kept his sickness down long enough to aim the flamethrower at them. Turn around, he told them. They turned, their faces like blanched meat, streaming sweat. He bent their heads, knocked off their helmets, and bringing them down on themselves, they fell and lay without moving. The blowing of a single autumn leaf. He turned and the mechanical hounds were there. It was half across the lawn, coming from the shadows, moving with such ease, like a single solid cloud of smoke in the silence. One of them made a leap into the air at Montag, a good 3 feet by his head. The procaine needle snapped out its single angry tooth. Montag caught it with a bloom of fire. It curled in petals of yellow. Montag, a new covering slammed into him, and Montag threw him 10 feet back against the bole of a tree. He felt it scrabble and seized the leg and stabbed the needle for a moment before the fire snapped. The hound up in the air, burst into metal bones in the joints, and it blew out a terror, fastened to the street. He lay watching the dead thing alive, fiddling in the air and die. Even now he wanted to get back at him and finish the injection through the flesh of his leg. He felt all of the mingled relief and horror of having pulled back only in time just to have his knee slammed by the fender of a car hurtling by at 90 miles an hour. He was afraid to get up, afraid he might not be able to regain his feet. With an anesthetized leg, a numbness hollowed in a numbness. And now, the street was empty, burnt like an ancient bit of sage scenery, and the other homes dark. The hound just laid there. Beatty there, the other three firemen in another place, and the salamander. He gazed at the immense engine. That would have to go too. Well, he thought, let's see how badly you are, off you are, Montag. On your feet. He stood. He only had one leg. The other was like a chunk of burnt pine log, heaved carefully along the pennants of obscure sin. When he put his weight on it, needles gushed up the length of the calf and the knee. He wept. Come on, you can't stay here. A few house lights were going on and down the street. Whether the incidents just passed or because of the normal silence following the fight, he didn't know. He hobbled around the ruins, seized his leg bad when it lagged, then taking and cursing and pleading. He heard a number of people crying in the darkness. He reached back to the yard in the alley. Beatty, he thought, you're not my problem now. You always said don't face a problem, burn it. Well, I've done both. Goodbye, Captain. And he stumbled along in the dark alley. He heard a shotgun blast in his leg every time he tried to put weight on it. And he thought, you're a fool, a damn fool, an awful fool, an idiot, a damn idiot, and a damn fool idiot. Look around the mess. Look at the mess. And what do? Pride, damn it, and temper. You've junked it all. And you start to vomit on everyone and yourself, but everything at once, and every one top of another. Beatty, the women, Mildred, Clarice, everything. No excuse. A fool. Give yourself up. No, we'll save what we can. We'll do what's left to do. If we have to burn, let's take a few more with us. Here. He remembered the books and turned back just to the off chance. He found a few books where he had left them, near the garden fence. Mildred, God bless her, had missed a few. 4 books lay hidden where he had put them. Voices wailing in the night, flash beams swirled about. Other salamanders were roaring, their engines far away. There were police sirens across town. Montag took the 4 remaining books, hopped his way down the alley and fell on his head. He had cut off, only his body lay there. Something inside jerked him to flopping him down. He lay where he had fallen and sobbed, his legs blindly to the gravel. Beatty wanted to die. In the middle of crying, Montag knew it was the truth. He had wanted to die. He had just stood there, not really trying to save himself, and just stood there, joking, thought Montag was enough to stifle his sobbing and let him pause for air. How strange. You wanted to die so much that you let a man walk around armed, and then instead of shutting up and staying alive, you go on yelling at people. At a distance, he heard running feet. He sat up. We gotta get out of here. Come on, get up. You can't just sit. But he was still crying. He had to be finished. It was away now. He walked away, killing anyone. Something gripped him and shrank as if it had been plunged into him. He gagged. He saw Beatty, a torch not moving, fluttering out of the grass. He bit at his knuckles. I'm sorry. Oh God, what have I done? He tried to piece it all together and back to an old pattern of life a few short days before. Feet ran in the far end of the alley. Get up, he told himself. Damn it, get up. He sat at the leg, stared at his leg, and just stood there. The pains were spike-driven kneecap, and then only daring needles, and then ordinary safety pins. And he shagged along 50 or more hops. He had been afraid that running might break loose at the ankle. Now, sucking into the night, he opened his mouth and blowing it out a pail with the blackness left him in a steady jogging pace. He carried the books in his hands, and he thought of Faber. Faber was back there in the steaming lump of tar. He had burnt Faber too. He felt a sudden shock by this. He had felt maybe Faber was really dead, baked like a roach in a small green capsule. You must remember, burn them or they'll burn you, he thought. Right now it's as simple as that. He searched his pockets, the money was there. He found the usual seashell upon the city was talking to itself in the full black morning. Police alert, wanted, fugitive, has committed murder and crimes against the state. Name, Guy Montag. Occupation, fireman, last seen. He ran steadily for 6 blocks, and then the alley opted into a wide, empty thoroughfare, lanes wide. And it seemed to him that a boatless river frozen in the raw of night, arc lamps trying to cross it, stage without scenery, inviting him to run across the blazing illumination. The seashell hummed in his ear. Watch for a man running. Watch for the running man. Watch for a man alone on foot. Watch for him. He pulled back in the shadows at a gas station and a giant chunk of porcelain, snow, and 2 silver beetles pulling to fill it up. Now he must clean and be presentable if he wished to walk, not run, stroll calmly across that boulevard. What if he tried to wash and comb his hair before he went his way? To get where? He thought, where am I even running? He asked himself. Nowhere. There was nowhere to go. No friend to turn to, except Faber. And then he realized that he was indeed running toward Faber's house instinctively. Faber couldn't hide him. It could be suicide even to try. But he knew he had to go see Faber anyway. For a few short minutes, Faber would be the place where he might refuel his fast-draining belief in his own ability to survive. He just wanted to know that there was a man like Faber in the world. He wanted to see the man alive and not burned back there in a body and shelled in another body. And some of the money must be left with Faber, of course, to be spent after Montag on his way. Perhaps he could make the open country, live a little near the river, near the highways and the fields and hills. A great whirling whisper made him look into the sky. The police helicopters were rising. Someone had blown the gray head off a dandelion flower. 24 of them were waving above his head 3 miles like butterflies, puzzled by autumn. One by one, kneading the streets, turning back to beetles, they shrieked along the boulevards, suddenly back, continuing their search for him. I'm going to stop there. Let's see if he gets to Faber's house. He is definitely instinctively looking for help. He doesn't know what to do. Everyone he knows is dead, just about, except for Faber. Or dead or gone. Mildred's gone. Beatty's dead. His coworkers are after him. The whole town's looking after him. So he's gone. The only place he's got left to go is Faber's. Remember, his earbud thing was burned. Beatty took it and he burned it. If you have any questions, let me know. Don't forget to answer your questions. I'll see you at the Google Meet from 2 to 2:30. Talk to you guys later.